Natalie is as I said, our HR specialist, and she really likes working with younger people, because she's young herself. Right? So Natalie, I know you have a lot to share, and I'm not gonna talk anymore. I'm just gonna hand over to you. Thanks for taking on the challenge.
Thank you, Dr. Sweeney. And I have Alicia Thompson here with me as well, one of my colleagues.
Welcome, so she'll jump in. What a force to reckon with. Okay. Students, you're in very good hands.
Good afternoon, students. Good afternoon. I don't need to introduce myself. Dr. Sweeney has done it for me already. But what I want is for 3 people to come off mute. 3 people drop it in the chat. What do you intend to get out of this session today? I want to ensure that I am meeting your needs. Brittany Mary?
Yes.
What do you aim to get out of this session today? I'm seeing Janice with her hands up.
Great afternoon. May I go?
Yes, you can.
Great afternoon. First of all, thank you for this amazing opportunity. What I'm looking forward to from this session is to equip myself with the do's and don'ts of resume writing and basically job application. I can be a force to reckon with.
And that was Janice, right?
Yes, miss.
Okay, Samoy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Are you hearing me clearly?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Great afternoon, everyone. Well, what I'm looking forward to for this meeting here is to just, as she said before, to just be a force to reckon with all of my application, with my resume writing, and just being a great candidate for any employer to just see and be undeniable by them.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll start. I have a deck with me, but it's just to guide the conversation. This is going to be an interactive session. We're going to have conversations. I don't like hearing my voice very much, so I need to hear your voices as well. Don't hesitate to interject. Ask me the tough questions. If I can't answer them, I'll throw them on Alicia. But I need the participation. So I'm going to share my screen. And
Sorry, Nance.
Yes.
Before you go any further, Sandrina is on, and I wanted to ask Sandrina if she just wanted to say anything before we get into it.
Okay.
Sandrina, everyone, some of the students have not yet met Sandrina Davis. She is the new CEO for Grace and Staff. Are you showing your face, Sandrina?
We're not hearing you, Sandrina. I don't know if you're on mute. We're not hearing you, Sandrina. So I can see that you're not on mute, but I'm not hearing you.
There are some technical difficulty there. Maybe later on, Sandrina, I'm sure you may want to share a few words with the students who are on. But when you're able to, when you're audible, maybe we could have you come on.
Okay. So Sandrina, when you can interject at any time. And I will share my screen. Can you confirm that you are indeed seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So today what I want to do is prepare you to win. Prepare you to be attractive from the point at which you apply to a job. Prepare you to be attractive when you sit in front of the recruiters and the hiring managers to have that conversation about potentially filling a role. And as I said, I want us to converse, so interject. So I want to start by telling you the type of people that we're looking for. I have GraceKennedy here because I work at GraceKennedy, but what I'm telling you can be applied to any organization. The presentation that I'm going through is one that I went through with employees, so it's also applicable to us in our careers, not just for people who are entering the working world. So you need to get an understanding of what organizations are looking for. And if I can find one word, it would be high potentials. you need to let us know that you are a high potential. What is a high potential? You need to be able to indicate to us that you have a growth mindset. So yes, you finished your degree. If you have any work experience and anything outside of your core degree program that you've done that shows that you are interested in continuously developing yourself, put it on your resume. We need people who can indicate to us that they are collaborative and that they can influence. And I'll share that there's a question that we commonly ask when we're interviewing people who are fresh from university. Tell me about a group project that you have done and tell me what role you have played in that group project. A lot of the young people want to show that they were the group leader. We don't always want you to be the leader. That's not always the right answer. What we want you to do is to tell us what role you have played. How did you influence some of the decision makings that was done, decisions that were made in the group project? Just show that you are able to work in a team and not necessarily to lead the team, because we're not always looking for leaders. We're looking for people who are great team players. We want you to show that you are innovative and that you can solve problems. If you have done anything outside of school based on your own initiative, tell us about it. Document it on your resume. Oh, it's agile, resilient. So how do you manage competing priorities? If you're having personal issues plus competing priorities at school, how did you bounce back? These are the stories that we want to hear from you in your interviews. We want to know that you're committed to developing yourself. And this is just a profile of what we're looking for in candidates that are coming to us at any level, from entry level to senior people. We want to know that you understand that your development is your responsibility. Yes, as employers, we will help you along that path of development, but you need to know that you are responsible for your development. You need to know that you need to identify what your weak areas are and plan on how you're going to close those gaps. And I have a few little questions that you can probably think through. Are you seeing the slide fully, or are you seeing the cameras?
I'm seeing the slide fully.
I'm seeing the slide fully.
Okay. So before even applying to the job, I want you to do some self-reflection. So you're finished college, you want to start earning some money. And I can understand that a lot of us leave school and we just start sending out applications everywhere because we just want a job. But I want to encourage you students, before you even start sending out application, think about yourself. Who are you? What do you believe your purpose is? Why are you here? What do you want to contribute? So yes, I understand the need to earn a living, but I also want you to keep on thinking about where you want to go. What is your ideal career? And also ensure you're applying to those jobs. And even if you take, let us say, an entry-level job, I'm just going to pick a job, probably at the call center. Even if you do pick one of those jobs, you have it in the back of your mind that this is just a stepping stone. Tian, can you mute, please? And this is who I am, and this is where I want to be. And this model, there's a model that I like to use, a career planning model. We use it, as I said, at every level of the organization. It's normal. When I normally present this model, I normally present it to people leaders to help them to foster or to carve out how they have a career conversation with their employees, right? So I want to encourage you, as I said before, what is your brand? Who are you? Assess yourself. And in this phase of planning your career, you pretty much want to get feedback and input from the people around you. Your classmates, your teammates, your lecturers, your parents, if you've done internship, your mentors, Dr. Sweeney, anyone who you come in contact with who can give an assessment of the work that you have delivered, the work that you put in, get their feedback. Try and understand what they identify as your strengths what they identify as your weakness. I'm not saying that you have to agree, but get the perspective from everyone. This is good information that you can use in your interview as well, because one question that we ask, if we were to speak to your lecturer, if we were to speak to your group mates, what would they identify as one of your strengths, your biggest strength and your biggest weakness? No, it's not. A lot of us don't like to talk about our weaknesses in interviews. But what I will say, if you do this assessment and have an understanding of what your weakness is, and then you've actually done some exploration and identified ways in which you can close that gap, that's a great story to come to interviews with. I understand that I am a weakness. I am so detail oriented that it makes me spend long on particular activities and probably at risk of missing a deadline. You understand yourself. Now, what do you intend to do to overcome that? So these are some of the things that we want you to do before you come to us in an interview. Know yourself, explore any learning opportunities, it doesn't have to be a gap that requires a classroom learning intervention. It could require you just having a discussion with somebody who is more senior to help you to identify what you need to do to overcome this particular gap. Are you still with me? Still with me? Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Students, please type in the chat to respond. I had to mute them.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
But I'll unmute them when you're ready to communicate.
And if anyone wants to communicate, just drop it in the chat. Because I see Janice has her hand up. Can you unmute Janice Suarez?
Yes, she can unmute now.
Great day. So I'm just informing you that the chat has been disabled, so I'm not able to comment in the chat, as well as the mic feature was off like you mentioned.
All right, let's leave it open. Let's leave it open. Let's leave it open. Right. So before the points that I'm making is before you even apply for the job, get to know yourself, get to know what you want to do. We don't want you to come into the organization in a role that you're not going to be happy with. You're going to end up leaving. You're going to end up being frustrated. So if you understand who you are and where you want to be, I would suggest you target your applications to these type of roles. Now for the resume writing tips. You've identified your ideal role, your ideal entry-level role, because you're at the entry level. You've identified the role, you started looking for those job roles, you're seeing a job posting, you're about to apply. First thing you need to do is you need to have that resume, right? There are a lot of companies now that are using technology that actually scans the resume for keywords. So the job ad posts something, it may say change management, software development, the key buzzwords. My suggestion to you, put those buzzwords on your resume. Just in case we're scanning the resume. Research shows that recruiters spend 6 seconds on a resume. So all that detail that you have on your resume, it's highly unlikely that we're actually going to read them. We actually scan the resumes for just the key things that we want. So we just scan to see if you have a degree. If it's a software developer role, for example, we're scanning to see if you've done anything in a software development field. We're scanning to see what certification you've had, what training. If at an entry level, it may add value to highlight some of the key courses you've done. Do not list out all the courses that you've done over the 3 or 4 year period. If there's a particular course that will give you an edge for that particular role, highlight it as well, right? It's a good practice to Google similar resumes for similar roles. You can always find sample resumes. And what that will help you to do is how to frame what you have done. As an entry-level employee, you're going to have to reference a lot of group work that you have done. So These you can Google and find a nice way to write about what you have done in school. And we can do some practical examples if anyone have anything there that they want to throw out, and we can talk through how we could make that look nice on a resume. The summary at the top, it's not mandatory. I can show you I have two versions of a resume. One, I just have keywords at the top. So I'm in HR, I have talent management, HR analytics, reporting and modeling, project management, just the key buzzwords at the top. And then there's another version that I have that has a summary. So who's Natalie? Outcome-oriented professional. So a lot of us write objectives, but I'm going to challenge you today to move away from objectives. And in that summary statement that you have at the top of your resume, let us know what key skills you have that will add value to us. What do you want to come to our organization and do with the skills you've garnered during your programs? And when you write in that summary at the top, stay away from saying I and me and my. It's hard. I still haven't mastered it. But write in third person as best as possible. So don't say I, my. Yes, we still want to know what you have done or what you can do. But when you speak of I and my, the recruiter may think that you're a individual contributor, you don't work well in teams. They may even think that you think too highly of yourself. So my suggestion about that compelling summary, use the keywords in your summary, write in third person, and keep it brief. It shouldn't be a whole paragraph, 5-6 lines maximum. But as I said, there's also the alternative where you can just write some keywords. Remember, I'm seeing chats. I'm seeing Samoy. Are you raising your hand? No? Okay. All right, so include relevant information only. So we may do a lot of things in school. So I know that in school you have to do an elective, so you probably will be doing a marketing course and you have to do an elective in natural science. It's not the work that you've done in that elective doesn't have any relationship to the role that you are applying for. Leave it off. You don't need to put that on your resume. Your resume should not be too long, 3 pages maximum. For entry-level students like yourself, I would suggest 1 or 2 pages because you have not done much in your career for it to spill over into 3 pages as yet. So look at the big ticket items, the big group projects that you've done, and highlight them on your resume. When you are describing what you've done, try to use words like you've supported, you've coordinated, active language. So show that it's something that you have done or are currently doing. You developed, you worked in accordance with XYZ, to just speak about some of the things that you've done, right? Call out your important achievements. So are you hall chairman, sports and social club committee member? Did you get any specific awards? Call them out because we like to see those as well. Did you do any volunteer work? That is something that is really impressive on a resume as well. So call out those important achievements. And I don't have it here, but if you had multiple degrees, the most recent is at the top. Similarly, if you've had any work experience, most recent is at the top, and you document in that order. If you've worked on any project that led to, because I know in some programs you work on process improvement projects, it may lead to something that the university benefited from. If you can put that, if you've done anything like that, put that on the resume as well. And I can tell you, if I read a resume and I find grammatical error, I am inclined to say that person does not pay attention to detail. So proofread it, edit it, format it, and have colleagues look at it as well, because you may miss it. I want to pause for questions.
Hi, Ms. Fagan.
Hi.
Again, sorry, I was unable to unmute before. I just wanted to know if you could provide an example of how to go about using third person on your resume, because you're draping me up from start to finish with everything so far. Like I have so many me and I's and I'm just thinking like, how am I gonna change this now? Because this is my go-to. So I was just wondering if you could provide an example.
So I'll share what my resume looks like. I don't think it's perfect, but I'm willing to share it on this call. I will say I have not yet mastered it. So I still do have a few my's in my summary, but limited. So I actually benefited from a session with a professional recruiter. She wanted to help me with how to, yeah, right. So her advice to me was stay away from first person. And it's something that it will come with practice, but I'll share what I have in mind. And as I said, Google is a very good starting point. You can find some really good ones on Google as well. So after I'm finished going through this presentation, I'll share my resume with you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Anyone else with any questions? Okay. Anyone?
Sorry.
Yes.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gary Anderson. All right. Question. Do you have like a pamphlet or something with these key things on it? Could, I don't know, send to us?
I could probably share this presentation with you.
All right. Great. That would be so good. All right. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Any more questions? So the questions, possibly there's something that you have on your mind that I haven't covered here that you'd like to know. Please don't leave this session and don't get all the information that you want from this session. So if you have something burning, please, if you don't want to share it with the entire group, send me a private chat. But I would want us all to benefit from the richness of the conversation. I'm seeing where two participants have their hands up.
Good evening. The question that I have, sorry for my background, I'm currently in a bus. But the question that I have, normally as an interviewer, the question that they always ask, do you have any questions for us? Is it a good way to say no, that you don't have any question for them, and they always ask for you, what is the salary you're expecting to get, even though sometimes you don't know what the salary to ask for?
Okay, so that's one of the things I had down there, further on the deck, but I'll respond to your question now. So your first question was, when they ask you if you have any questions, if it's good to say no, no, you should at least ask one question. A go-to question is, what is the culture like within the organization? That's a go-to question. If you really don't want to know anything, ask that question. Talk to me about the culture of the organization. What do you love about working at GraceKennedy? That's a simple go-to question. The salary, I would encourage you to do your research prior to going into the interview. Get an understanding of what people at the level that you're applying to, what are they earning, what are their skill sets in comparison to yours. So if I am earning $1 million, but I've been in the organization for 2 years, that means I'm more skilled than someone who's coming in fresh. So you wouldn't expect to get the same amount of money that I am getting. So do your research. You have friends, you have friends who are working, get an understanding of what salaries are like. You should never ask the recruiter how much the role is, what's the role, what's the rate for the role. So you don't ask about the salary, but if they ask you what is your salary expectation, you should come with something. Okay? And you can always, if you don't want to price yourself out of a job, always just add the word negotiable at the end.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions, or should I proceed to the next slide? All right. All right, so you've identified the role, you've done your resume. The cover letter is pretty much just you talking about why you want the job, how you're going to apply the skills that you've garnered, and expressing appreciation and that they'll get back to you. So you have, and where people are hardly asking for cover letters these days. We just want resumes. Remember the resume, keep it brief, proper English. You may need to tailor your resume for each job that you're applying for if the job is different, because as I said, you should indicate on your resume the achievements that are directly related to the job that you're applying for. So if you are applying for a UX UI designer today and tomorrow you're going to apply for a digital marketing role, you may have different achievements that you'd want to showcase for each of these roles. So you may need to tweak your resume based on the role that you're applying for. And remember that your resume is like you're advertising yourself. Use a nice font. Please stay away from adding a picture on your resume. I've seen so many pictures, so many recruiters shelve resumes because of the picture. Some people have very professional pictures. Some people add pictures that looks like they're actually a joker. So my suggestion would be just don't add a picture. If we want to know what you look like, we're going to go on LinkedIn. And we're not looking for that at all. We don't care what you look like. We just want to see what you're bringing to the table. I think I saw Janice's hand up again. Yes, Tamika, it's okay to quote a range.
My question is in relation to special skills.
Mm-hmm.
If you're asked to write about special skills, what exactly would these skills be? Could it range from, for example, microscopy? I'm able to use the microscope. Could it range from that? Or is it something entirely different? I'm not so sure.
So it is dependent on the role. So when you get a job ad, the first thing you do is read the entire job ad. So I've had a mentee asked me to help her to prepare for a job interview, and I asked her to send me the job description, and she sent, the summary at the top of the job description. You need to read every single piece of the job description. There's a section that speaks to required skills. So what you put as your special skills is dependent on what you believe the role would need. So if you're doing something in the biological field and your expertise in microscopy is important to the role, then you add it. If you just want us to know that you have that skill set, even though we don't need it, and your resume is short, you can also add it. So it's dependent on you. As I said, what we look for, the special skills are normally way at the bottom. Sometimes we don't reach there. What we're looking for are those keywords. So if you have your keywords in the special skills, then we will see it. So
I have
read
a
the job.
question, Natalie.
Pardon?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So there are some students who may go to university. They may have done a degree in biology, and when they leave, they say, no, you know what? I really don't want to work in this field. I want to work in HR.
Mm-hmm.
Advise that person in terms of how they go about marketing themselves. Because we do have persons who are trained in a particular area, but they can effectively market themselves to work in other areas.
Okay. Thank you for that very hard question, Dr. Sweeney. But the beauty about first degrees, university degrees, especially first degrees, is that the skills are transferable.
Right.
So the first thing you need to do, as I said, is look on the job descriptions or a sample resume for an HR professional. And then tweak what you have done to show that you are capable of transferring your skills to that profession. Let's see if we can find an example. So a biology major, give me a project that you would have done. Do we have any on the line? Alyssa, can you help me with any? I can't think of any right now. I did biology.
Mostly labs, mostly biological labs, but you do have need some analytical skills.
But, right, that's what I'm thinking. Someone with a biology background, so that sort of analytic background, who could, and their functions in HR that require that level of analysis, research, that kind of a thing.
And so that's what I would play on. So the beauty about this, about being analytical, is you can apply that skill set anywhere. So you talk about some of the analysis you've done and how you believe that can be used in the HR function, right? So you probably wouldn't want to speak about any specific scientific type of analysis, but just the mindset that you have a sound analytical mindset that can be applied in the HR function, and I would like to deliver XYZ using these skill sets. Sound sensible, Dr. Sweeney?
Makes sense, yes.
So if we have anybody like that who would want further probing, I would like for you to just take a stab at it and then share it with me, and I'll tell you if what you've written would be attractive to a recruiter. But it will really take, you'd actually have to sit down and really tweak how you phrase your capabilities to fit a particular role like that. All right. Any other question? No? All right, so you've gotten the interview. So your resume was attractive. We've shortlisted you, and now we've contacted you for the interview. Do you prepare for interviews? Show of hands. I know a lot of people who do not prepare for interviews. I can tell you that at my level, I still prepare for an interview like I'm about to sit an exam. And it pays off. The first thing you need to do is know your resume. We know that a lot of people write things on their resume that they embellish. I'm not going to say it's a lie, but it's embellished. You need to know what you have on that resume and be able to speak to every single thing that you have on that resume. We may not drill down, but just in case, you need to be able to speak to what you have on your resume. So if, and a good way, we'll talk about the STAR method in a few minutes, but a good way to talk about some of the things on your resume is to frame it using a STAR approach. So what was the scenario? What technique did you apply? What does the A stand for again? Scenario, technique. What did you achieve and what was the results, right? And when you start to sit down and go through your resume line by line and build out those scenarios and build out those stories, you are fully equipped to go into that interview and win that role. And I can tell you that at my level, I still do this. I go through my resume each time and create my scenarios based on the job description that I believe the recruiter would be interested in hearing. You can't speak about every single thing that you've done, but if you go through your resume and handpick the few pieces that you think will leave an impression and create a winning scenario, then you're good. So same thing. So you know your resume, you prepared a wide range of brief real life stories about your accomplishments, and you need to do the same thing with that job description. Line by line, and you create those scenarios. If you had written your resume to the job description, you probably wouldn't need to do both of these steps because your resume would already be in line with the job description. But the moral of the story is you need to have a scenario for the things that the employer are looking for. So if you're an analytical person trying to get into an HR field, what story, what life experience do you have that you believe you can use to apply to training and development? You can speak to possibly having to lead a session in your team where you were the only one who understood a particular topic and you had to go out and research methods of delivering the message to your team members. You had to think about the people who learn by seeing, the people who learn by hearing, the people who learn by doing, and try and incorporate. So you create that story and you sell it in the interview. Be ready to discuss your strengths and your ability to learn from past experience. So yes, we normally go into interviews and everything that we've done before is perfect. No, we want to hear some of the mishaps that you've had and what you've learned from it and how you would apply what you've learned if you were to be faced with a similar scenario in the future. So I can't find an example. My examples are with my experience, but you are an actuary, you did a big project, and at the end, it did whatever you were calculating, it was incorrect. How did you bounce back? That's another question we ask as well. So it's not really how you learn from your past experience, but you've invested all of your time and your energy in a particular project, and you, not that you failed the project, but whatever you did not work out as planned. How do you bounce back from a scenario like that? We want to hear from you that you do feel, but you can manage the stress and you know that you can get over it and move on. But we don't want you to say, no, I don't make things bother me, I'm just going to move on from that. No, we need to understand that you know how to take pressure, take disappointment, soak it in. I go home and I sleep it off. I went and had a drink. I spoke to a friend. And then the next morning I came back and I regrouped and I was able to deliver. All right?
Excuse me, Miss Fagan.
Yes.
Just backtracking a little bit in relation to pictures on resumes. I noticed that it's a trend that I have been seeing even with professionals offering resume writing services. Would you say that it depends on the job that you're applying for, or would you say just to leave the picture out entirely?
If you're going to add a picture, ensure it's a professional headshot. That's all I would say on that topic. If you're inclined to add a picture, professional headshot. I believe like creatives possibly would add pictures, but my personal feeling is leave it out. But if you're inclined, if you really want to add a picture, ensure it's a professional image. Okay? Clear image, just your head.
Okay, thank you.
Right. And one of the reasons why I'd say leave it out, we are not inclined to see who we are interviewing. We don't discriminate at all. So it doesn't really add or take away. It takes away if it's unprofessional, but it doesn't add much value, if you understand what I'm saying. Alyssa, you would agree with me?
Yes, I would agree.
I would agree.
I would say leave the picture for your LinkedIn.
Okay. All right. Competencies, as I said, the competencies, that is what we're assessing for. So when we do a job ad and we list the competencies in the job ad, it's not because we like to write. When you come in front of us, these are the competencies that we're going to use to assess you as a candidate. So if you see on the list, initiative, must take initiative, project management experience, any competencies that are listed on the job description, we are going to use those competencies to assess your performance in the interview. And that's what we use to determine whether or not you're a good candidate. So ensure you know what the competencies that are required and you have a story or have a story that incorporates those competencies when you're talking to us, okay? Have an idea of something about the company. You need to know that GraceKennedy operates internationally, that we have foods division and financial group. You need to know something about the company that you're applying for. If your role is something, so for example, for myself, if I'm a recruiter, and I would go on the careers website and I would come to the interview and saying, while I looked on your career website, I thought that it would be enhanced if XYZ. So if you can come with some suggestions of something in the area that you're applying for that we could improve on, say it nicely, because you're not trying to get on the bad side of your recruiter or your hiring manager, but just to show that you've already taken the initiative to look a little deeper, to come up with suggestions is a good sign.
Mr. Natalie, this is kind of related to competence. Most students leaving university don't have much work experience. Most jobs they apply for will require 3 to 5 years work experience. How should a graduate handle a question like that?
Okay, so when we're looking for graduates, 3 to 5 work experience, we try to get an understanding of how their work that they've done at school translates to an experience. So Let me see if I can find a practical example. Software development. You can get experience outside of what you've done in your degree program in software development if you're really and truly interested. So a lot of students will go outside of whatever the school curriculum is doing and take the initiative to do something entrepreneurial. They've had the experience. If you haven't gotten that opportunity, but you've worked on a software development project in school, then that's what you come and talk to us about. This is what I've done. It may not have been 3 to 5 years. It's been probably a 5-month course or a 5-month project. However, when you speak to us, or you speak to what you have learned from that and how you believe you can apply it in the organization, that's when you get the interview. On the resume, you put it as a key point. So this is what you've done. You don't have to put a timeline to it. Get in the door, and then you talk us through the timelines and how you plan to use it in our organization.
So a lot rests on the interviewee to be very assertive in articulating, what they have done in that particular area.
Yes.
Convince the interviewer.
Yes. And that takes preparation. And when you're preparing, it's good to have seasoned professionals listen to how you respond to the questions. Because I've interviewed graduates, and at the end of the interview, I have no idea of their skills because of how they answered the questions. So it takes practice. Preparing for an interview is serious business. At the end of the interview, I must know what your skill sets are, what you can do, what you believe you need to work on. A lot of what we look for in the interview is, from young graduates, is how abreast are you with what's happening in your particular function area. Do you read the blogs? If there's a particular body of knowledge, so for us in HR, SHRM, do you know what's happening in SHRM space? Is there anything that you've gone on YouTube and taken the initiative to learn on your own because you realize that this is the area you want to be in, and you are taking the steps to ensure that you understand the industry trends and you understand what you need to know in order to be successful in the particular field. So it's on you to go out there. That first step, when I said to you, get to know yourself, get to know what opportunities are out there to close those gaps that you've identified. Make your plan and execute on your plan. It's an important first step, even before you start applying. And then preparing for that, after you've nicely phrased your resume and you've gotten that interview, preparing for that interview is crucial. And lean on people you know who are already working, who can help you with preparing for your interview. You can Google common questions for a particular role. Prepare for those questions. Right here, your introduction, tell me about yourself. When I was younger, I struggled. Do I talk to you about my personal life? Do I talk to you about my career goals? What do I talk to you about? A healthy mix is good. And what I usually do is I take the cue from the recruiter. So some recruiters, they introduce themselves. If they get into the personal space, you know they want to get into your personal space. So if I'm recruiting you and I tell you that I'm a mother of 2, that means I want to know something about your personal life as well, which is why I'm sharing this. If I don't get there, you don't have to. But what's good is if you do decide to go personal, so you share something personal, try and tie it back to professional. So I like archery, and that has helped me to be more, because when you're doing archery, you have to be focused on the bullseye. So that has helped me with my focus in my schoolwork and my career. I focus on the goal ahead, and I take initiatives to get to that goal. So if you're gonna tie something personal in, it's nice for you to tie it back to professional if the recruiter didn't go into their personal life. But if the recruiter goes into the personal life or asks you specifically to go into your personal life, then you go personal. I have a recruiter friend, her go-to question is always, tell me something about you that's not on your resume. And what she's trying to get from that one question is, if you listen, everybody goes through, a lot of people goes through what's on their resume when she asks that question. And for her, you're done right there because you don't listen. So listen to the question that the recruiter is asking. Tell me about what do you do for fun? So if people may go, tell me about yourself, and you stick to the professional, there are some recruiters who don't like that either, because you are more than your professional life. So they'll follow up with, tell me what you do for fun. My suggestion, merge them nicely. A little bit of personal, tie it into how it has helped you as a professional, as a student, and even getting you ready for the professional life. That would be my suggestion about tell me about yourself. Oh my, this was a 1 hour session. I like to say, prepare a compelling ending. Some of us may be in an interview and we believe that we didn't do a good job at the interview. That ending is something that you can use to gain back some traction. So a compelling ending may be, what will I do in the first 30 days? Or what I like to do, I ask the recruiter, describe your ideal candidates. When they're describing their ideal candidate, you listen keenly, because at the end, you need to let them know why you are that ideal candidate. So if they talk about somebody who has XYZ as strengths, you ensure that at the end, you wrap up with saying your strengths as these are my strengths, and they've been showcased in these areas. So your ending must be very compelling. Dress nicely, groom yourself, practice. First impression lasts. Make sure you're on time to the interview. If you're late, you must have a very compelling story why you're late. But be on time. And yeah. I said I wanted to talk to you about the STAR technique. Pretty much what's the situation? So when did it happen? Where it happened? What did you actually do? What was your particular role? Because we're interviewing you. This is what the project achieved, but what did you do to ensure that the project was successful? And then pretty much the results. So this is the way you would frame your little short stories that you're putting together for us to be impressed with what you're doing, okay? And I had wanted us to just do some applications here, but in the interest of time, I'll skip this and I'll probably share it with you. Just some things I pulled from some job descriptions. So how would you apply the STAR technique to the job descriptions? You need to apply it to your resumes. You need to also apply it to the behavioral questions. So give me an example of a difficult problem you solved. How did you solve this problem? STAR. What was the situation? What technique? What were the actions? What were the results? I will change some of these references to something more entry level, and then you can use it as practice when you're practicing your interview. But a good place to get these bullets from, take them from your own resume and take them from the job description, and then create some scenarios. And then I think this is the last slide on the interview day. They just professionally sit upright. If for any reason they invite you out to a dinner, ensure you know proper table manners. Know which fork is yours, which cup is yours. You don't eat with your fingers. Proper table manners, because you're being tested. It's an interview. It's also a part of the assessment. So ensure that you are practicing proper table manners. Be yourself. We're looking for you. Do not pretend to be who we want you to be, because you'll be unhappy if you get the role under pretense. So be yourself. Let your passion shine through. So we need to see a glimpse of your personality. Laugh a little. Don't mean laugh right throughout the interview, no. But you can smile and share 2 jokes that are within the lines of the questions. If the interviewer crack a joke, you smile with them or you laugh with them. We need to see you. We need to see that we can interact with you on a personal level, right? Avoid distractions. Maintain eye contact. Smile. And use open professional body language, and ensure you use good grammar. If you chip into patois, it's because you're sharing a story where patois needs to come about, but throughout, use good grammar. in our Zoom phases now, try to have a nice quiet background, a plain wall behind you, or a nice background from the app that you're using, and dress appropriately. I've sat on quite a few interviews recently, young graduates, and they're in front of me in t-shirts. It is where the world is going, but we're still not yet there. Wear a shirt to your interviews, okay? And to get over nervousness, you do the breathing. You breathe in, you hold it, you release it. And I already spoke to you about how you get your compelling ending. And you ask the recruiter exactly what you want to know. And as I said earlier, if you don't know what you want to know, just ask them about the culture of the organization. See if it's a fit for you. Talk about the values. Have them talk about the organization to you. You don't speak ill of, if you've worked before, you don't speak ill of your present employers or any of your group mates or any of your lecturers. Don't speak bad about anybody like that. If you have gaps on your resume, so I know some of us may leave school, stop going to school and then going back, explain. We're going to ask you. If there's a gap in your timeline, we're going to ask you what were you doing during this period. So ensure you have that story lined up. As mentioned, don't turn up late. Don't oversell. You're selling yourself, but we want you to be humble. We don't want somebody to come into the organization who we think feels like they're better than everybody else, because you're going to have to be interacting with people. So don't be humble, but of course, sell yourself. Know a little bit about the company. Do not ask about the salary. And even if you are recommended by someone, your parents work with the company, you've worked on internship, and we already know what you're capable of, do not turn up to the interview like you believe that the job is yours. That's already a turn off. You're not humble. Be humble. And that's it. Any questions? All right, Janice, go ahead.
Thank you. So I just have a quick question. As it relates to being versed on Zoom applications, is that a suitable quality or skill to add?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Alyssa, you want to add anything else that you think I missed? Oh, let Samoy ask her question first.
Yes, so good afternoon again. I would love to know, what is your ideal candidate? And I would love for Alisa to answer this as well, as you guys are part of the HR. What is your guys' ideal candidate?
Okay, Alisa, you want to take this one? It's Alisa.
That's Samoy. You hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Yes,
So, ideal candidates. I believe you're sometimes ideal for the job, and you're also ideal for the culture or the fit sometimes. So I believe it can be a two-part kind of ideal. So I guess the easiest one is ideal for the culture, ideal for the company and its values, and where it wants to go. And in terms of that, I believe you're looking at mostly certain types of personality traits and behavioral kind of traits. So somebody who shows up on time, somebody who is passionate about the work, somebody who is self-motivated, who wants to continue progressing and he believes in self-development, and somebody who really wants to contribute. When it comes down to the other part of being ideal, it's really having some of the skills or most of the skills required for the job. Because to be honest, sometimes you will not possess 100% of the skills, but recruiters are looking for persons who are also trainable. Having a degree and completing a degree really shows that you're trainable and you're able to learn. So once you can really tell someone or show someone that you can, as Natalie said, skills are really transferable. You can use the skills that you've learned to apply it to this job, and how you will apply it, to solve problems, etc. Those are the type of persons we're looking for, who are, problem solvers. For persons who, we know that stresses will come up, but you won't buckle. You'll still be able to continue and still living. So it's also, ensuring that you have most or some of the skills required for the job, and if not, how can you tell us that you're gonna close the gap on some of those skills in order to be a good candidate? Because there's no perfect candidates, but candidates who really show that they want to learn and they really have value. I believe those are ideal candidates.
Beautifully said, Alicia. And I just want to go back on Dr. Sweeney's point where he said we may have a biology major who wants to move to HR. You need to do some work before coming to the interview about what HR is and how are you going to, you're not sitting, you are coming with pretty much biology background. What do you know about HR? Have you done any short courses, any of the free courses on LinkedIn, any YouTube videos? As Alicia said, you must be trainable. You must identify when you need some amount of training, and we want you to indicate those things to us while we're interviewing you. So Alicia answered the question beautifully. Yeah, so that's what we're looking for, the ideal candidate. You can work in a team. You must understand that your development is your responsibility, and you must be interested in getting developed, having that growth mindset. You must be able to be agile and resilient, bounce back from any adversity, can transfer your skills, you're a bit flexible, you're passionate. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Can you say something about work ethics? I know with the advent of COVID, many workplaces are looking at a hybrid system where some persons are working remotely, some are working in office. It means that persons working remotely will not be monitored and supervised as closely. It requires a certain level of autonomy among employees. Can you say something about the level of maturity, the sense of responsibility that comes with this kind of workplace and work setting?
Okay, so yes, hybrid work environment where I'm working from home, it may be tough to be onboarded in a virtual environment and not being able to meet and interact with people like you would expect to. But what we're expecting is that at GK, our word is our bond. It's one of our guiding principles, and it's something that we live by at GraceKennedy. And we're expecting that our new recruits also believe that their word is their bond. So we are expecting you to develop that relationship with your peers and your manager. If you commit to delivering something, you're working towards it, and you're going to be delivering in that time. Not because you're working remotely means you start working at 10 o'clock. 8 o'clock is the start time for work. So we expect that you're going to still be following the policies of the organization, start time, end time, lunch break. But pretty much you need to be mature enough to understand that working remotely is still working. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be running out on the road every 2 minutes. So we want that kind of work. It's hard to track, but the onus is on you as an employee to ensure that you have your objectives, you have your task list, you're meeting your deadlines. If you are not meeting your deadlines, then there are disciplinary actions that you may face. But Dr. Sweeney, I hope I'm getting on the right track. I'm not sure I'm answering you properly.
Yeah, man, you are on the right track. Yeah.
Okay. So those are some of the things that we try to discover or uncover in the interview. What is your work ethic? What are your values? Are they aligned with us? So when you have panels that include both HR and the hiring manager is actually asking the more technical related questions. As HR, what we're trying to do is determine, as Alicia said, a cultural fit. So we're asking you the questions around our values to see so we want to know if you're an ethical person. So we have ethical, integrity, Trust, honesty, there are big deals at there are big deal at GraceKennedy, and we're trying to get that from you in the interview. Are you an ethical person? So we may ask you, have you ever had a scenario where you are getting directions from your lecturer or your superiors that were against certain ethical values within yourself, and how did you handle that? So we're trying to get an understanding of where are you on the spectrum. Janice?
Thank you, Miss. So I would like, you did not get an opportunity to share your resume. So I was wondering if you could provide us with a sample resume in addition to this PowerPoint.
Okay, I'll find one and share with you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the session. It was very informative and I really learned a lot. So thank you so much for your time.
I am glad to hear. I see Alicia dropping in the chats. Not this chat, things that I've forgotten. So I'll just give her the opportunity to just say the few things that she believes I should have covered.
Okay, hi again. Well, it's not much, but you know, as Natalie was mentioning, many persons are having like hybrid work from home, etc. And you know, the COVID era right now, many interviews are being done online. So just one thing to note, you know, if you're going to be doing online interviews, whether it be Zoom or Teams or Google Meet, whichever application that we'll be using, just try to ensure that you maybe test it a little bit before, ensure if it is a camera on type of situation in a well-lit area, and your camera is working or your mic is working. So if it is that you probably need to call a friend on Zoom, on a call on another, you know, another meeting just to test it beforehand, that would be pretty good. And I know one thing that Natalie didn't really mention, but to me, I always believe it's something good to add, and I know you may not have as much experience to put there. When somebody goes to your LinkedIn, is to create a LinkedIn page. It's a good place to network, to meet like-minded people, to be a part of certain organizations that are similar to your interests and the skills that you have. So my suggestion is to create a LinkedIn profile. Ensure that it kind of matches with your resume, because it's like your social media bragging resume basically. So you know, when you go there, you don't really have many other experiences that you can put, but you can probably put the stuff you did in clubs, whatever you're the leader of, etc. It's really like your bragging profile for social media in a sense. So I would suggest, you know, doing one and also putting a professional picture, you know, not one when you go to a party. So that's my other advice. And to just network, and you know, if you see somebody in a role that you're interested in, reach out to them, you know, in a professional way. Ask them about it. Ask them what a typical day looks like. You know, what are some of the things you probably need to do as an entry-level person to prepare yourself for an interview, or to prepare yourself for the job if you get the job. So it's always good to network, but maybe that's a different call and topic on networking for another time. But those are my own 2 cents.
But to add to what you're saying, Alicia, I want to also remind persons that they need to have professional email addresses.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. We've seen some unprofessional ones, and we've seen some at the university. When you leave the university, that won't work. And I'll share, Alicia mentioned updating your LinkedIn with things like your resume. If we're reaching out to someone on LinkedIn, we're downloading that LinkedIn profile. It comes to us as a resume. So if there's nothing there, we're getting a blank document, which means we know nothing about you, which means we will not be reaching out to you. So populate the resume. When we do search for people on LinkedIn, we search keywords. So we're looking for a particular role, looking for particular skill sets. So ensure those things are also on your LinkedIn profile as well.
Right. Are there any more questions? Anything in the
No,
chat?
not a question, just a statement. I did log on a bit late. However, I must say that in a professional environment, and it's not that you want to look at it from a standpoint that I'm only doing this because it's a requirement of the workplace or because it is required of me, because then it might appear to some persons, not everyone is the same, as a burden. The reason I say this is because you don't want to look at the job opportunities and, oh, because this job requires this or that, you're going to acquire it just because of that or from that standpoint. It's all about your inner growth. It's all about what are you acquiring to better yourself. Because at the end of the day, no one can take that from you. So if you're going to do something, it's best to do it with a more positive attitude, to say that it's benefiting me, I'm gaining from it, and this is what I am bringing to the table. So that's a standpoint that, especially in the interview, it's not about the workplace, it's about what difference are you going to take to that workplace to add to that work environment, to basically let them know that you're the perfect person for that particular job, as well as for the past accomplishments. You can look at it as an achievement to say that I'm able to do this, and this is what I'm able to bring to you. That enlightens you better to say that to whatever is happening, you are better able to manage anything that is thrown at you. So don't just look at it as, oh, it's a job and every job is different, yes, and some of them don't like colored hair and some of them don't like this or that. At the end of the day, you are to remain professional, right? But you want to also look at it from the standpoint that, what can I do to make this better for myself and anyone else who I am to interact with?